Christian thing.
Well, let's go to the word of God, which comes from Proverbs 16 and 9. I'm going to read from the NIV. It says, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but it's the Lord that establishes their steps. Meaning you can have all the planning done. You can have all the goals set. You can talk about what you're going to do this day, or what you want to do in a week or in 2 weeks and 3 weeks and all that other stuff, or a quarter of the years past and all that other stuff. You can come up with those plans, but essentially, it's the Lord that's going to decide all that. You can do all your planning, all your master plan, thinking of a master plan, all that stuff. Shout out to Eric B. And Rakim, but it's all going to fail if you don't understand that ultimately God's sovereign will prevail. And there's a scripture in the New Testament, I forget where. I think it was Paul who said basically, let us not say what we're going to do tomorrow or the next year or the next week we're going to go to this town or that town, when you don't even know the number of hairs on your head. You don't know what tomorrow holds. So you can talk about what you're going to do tomorrow. Instead, we should say, if it be the Lord's will, we will. So I think we need to approach this 2023 with that mindset. If it be the Lord's will. I say that all the time. Like, Lord willing, I'll see you tomorrow, because it may be his will. I don't see him tomorrow. You know what I mean? So anyway, so I think that we need to have that soberness in mind when we're talking about 2023 in this goal setting.
That's James
4:15. James 4:15. See, I had the wrong apostle. Well, James wasn't an apostle, but I had the wrong brother. All right, that wasn't Paul. That was James. Yeah, I had a feeling it was James too. I don't know why I said Paul. Maybe it's because I've been reading a lot of Paul lately. Maybe I'm a little bit, biased towards Paul at the moment.
Cool. You were in the right testament at least.
Yeah. But anyways, y'all, we're gonna talk about goal setting, and I want to talk about the differences. We want to start off with the differences between goal setting and resolutions. Now, Nikki, when you think of resolutions, what comes to your mind, and what is your feeling around when people come up with resolutions?
It's just something that you're determined to do, something you resolve to do. I remember there was one of our, I want to say, I can't remember where it was, but it was in some kind of either conference or something. They talked about not having resolutions, but doing more goal setting. Mm-hmm. And when I was reading an article, even this weekend, it was in Time Magazine. They talked about how 80% of people who start off with all these resolutions at the beginning of the year, they end up falling off by February. They say, when it gets cold and, people get comfortable and it's like, you can start off with good intentions, but then a month later, it's like, okay.
Not even a month.
Yeah.
Listen, when I was going to the gym, I'd see, man, I get irritated.
In January.
Because I will be going all the time. But then in January, all of a sudden, you got these folk who swear up and down they about to do something big. Man, the next day I don't see them. Mm-hmm. Or the next week I don't see them. And I'm like, wait a minute, what happened to the dude and the girl and they was talking about what they was gonna do and all this other stuff. And it was like it immediately just went like it was off the face of the map to me. All right. Now, one of the reasons why we need to be careful when it comes to resolutions and goal setting, because resolutions come very cheap. It's easy to get caught up in the moment of the calendar switching over from December 31st to January 1st and say, you know what? Hey, everybody's doing resolutions. Let me go ahead and say a resolution. And you start saying what you really want to happen and what you hope will happen, but the difference is you really have no plan of action or no teeth in the game to actually put something into planning to actually reach that goal, like goal setting. So you could easily say, You know what? Hey, shoot, 2023, I'm losing 15 pounds right off the rip. All right. And that sounds real good. You know what I mean? That sounds great. But like, instead of doing that, okay, because instead of doing that, why don't you just set a goal and say, you know what? I believe, I'm going to try to cut this out. And I'm going to try to cut this out. And I'm going to try to do more of this and see. And if I can conquer those things, then eventually I'll get to this goal that I have of XYZ. I think so many times we fall victim of wanting to take a big chunk out of a mountain instead of taking, a spoonful. There's some analogy that talks about that. Like, there's some, I know somebody got some analogy out there. It's something about where you can like take the little small scoops, or if you're gonna eat. Well, I don't want to. That's a bad analogy too. A mountain of ice cream. You can't want to say that because somebody be 8 bills by the time they finish it. But y'all get what I'm saying.
But
If you
even
have
if
a
it's like, I know it's like a different example, but how they say like it's the little nibbles that nibble away at the vine or eat away at the vine.
yeah, it's the
or
small
something,
foxes
like,
that destroy the vine, and of course we know, like
that's
we
a
said, that's
different
different.
example.
But
I'm
it's
just saying
still
bite-sized
nonetheless.
chunks.
Yeah. You don't have to take big chunks and chunks and chunks at one time. You can take those small little bites, and
Baby
eventually,
steps. Yeah.
the baby steps, the small little things. And if you say that, then eventually you'll hit this goal. But if you just come with some cheap resolution that requires no planning, that requires no accountability, so to speak, then you'll find yourself saying 10 different resolutions and you didn't hit nail one of them. But you'd be better off looking at a goal and setting a goal per se and saying, you know what, I'm going to make this my goal, and then start researching what are the things you can do to help you reach that goal. Is there accountability? Because I know that's an ugly word nowadays, accountability. Is there an accountability partner you can have that's going to hold you accountable and not sugarcoat stuff and help you achieve this goal? And it doesn't have to be with weight. It could be with finances. It could be with spiritual growth. And when I say spiritual growth, I'm talking about some of those disciplines you need to kind of study the Bible like you want to, because to know God is to know His Word.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the stark differences between goal setting and then just come with the old cliche-ish. Oh wow, that's a tongue twister. Cliche-ish term of resolution.
Aisha, you were kind of thinking like me. I was like, yeah, they probably had good intentions, which I'm sure everyone does. But it kind of goes back to what
she laughed.
I know, because I was laughing in my head too. I mean, I was laughing. I was like, yeah, I'm sure they meant well when they were like, they probably went and got all their workout clothes. Of course, they paid for the membership. So it's like they probably had the heart to stick with it. But, it kind of goes back to what you and I were talking about yesterday, how it can't just be a matter of the calendar year changing or the date changing because it's another day. It has to be your mindset.
Yeah.
And so until you really have a determined mind to change, then it's just going to be the same thing over and over and over again.
Facts. Yeah, because we were talking the other day. There's nothing magical that happens at the end of a year into another year. You just flipped into another year. To put your own game, you can start a year in the new year anytime you want to. Like for instance, it could be September 28th, and you could say, you know what, today I'm not gonna do this no more. I ain't gonna do it no more. And then 12 months come by, you get back to that date, you be like, you know what, I ain't done this in a year. That was your year you established. In other words, you have the power to do those things. God has given us that ability, that God-given ability to do those things and the freedoms to do those things. The difference is we don't want to put in the discipline that's required to do some of those things. And I know the spirit is willing and the flesh is weak in a lot of things, but it's those small disciplines that help you become some of the things you aspire to be, so to speak. So I think that's dope. I think that's pretty cool. All right, y'all, hold on. I want to read this real quick because Tanya said something good. Yeah, she said, yeah, it sounds great, but a goal but a goal sets the intention, and many don't want. Yep, don't want that commitment.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't want that
And
commitment.
that's something else. I'm glad you brought that up, Latayan, because earlier I was reading and someone did mention that word, that very word, instead of having resolutions, what commitments? Because that's a deeper level, right? If you're committing to something, that means you're willing to put in the work to get it done. Like you were talking about, Jermaine, having a plan of action and sticking with it even when things get tough. Because since we're talking about the new year, the reality is, and I understand, it feels good to have a fresh start, the calendar year starting over, feeling like you can look ahead and kind of leave the previous year behind, especially if it was challenging. But the reality is that we're still going to have challenges in 2023. We're looking forward, and I'm not saying it in a way that means I don't have high expectations. You can still know that God is going to be faithful. You can still know that he is true to his word and his promises. But the reality that he even tells us, he didn't say just 1 year you're going to have
tribulation.
Yeah, like it'll just
2023. Hey, but you get to that 2022 gonna be rough. You get to that 23. Hey.
Yeah. So we have to be realistic and knowing, like, while blessings, we know that God will bless us. We trust in his word, but we also know that we're going to have to face some things this year. So are we committing to still staying strong in the faith, to still trusting him even when things aren't going well, to still pushing through in order to reach the goals that he has placed on our hearts? So
yeah,
that's just something else that came to my mind earlier. But yeah, to Latanya's point, the word commitment, I love that.
Thank y'all for watching. If you like to view the full live, you can click the link at the bottom of this video. And do us a favor. We noticed that about 56% of y'all that watch our videos are not subscribed. So please consider hitting that subscribe button and smashing that bell. It costs you nothing and means a whole lot to us. Anyways, we appreciate your time. Thank you for rocking with us. God bless y'all. Y'all take care.